Now, still on matters of Nigeria's democracy, the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, the state legislature, and the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State has remained a front-burner topic in conversations across Nigeria's political landscape. Several groups, including the Nigerian Bar Association and other leading civil society organizations, have described the move as illegal. Publisher of Ovation magazine and stalwart of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, Dele Momodu, is the latest voice to speak up against the president's action. Momodu says the president's action could be killing democracy in Nigeria. Now, he warned that the country is currently descending into dictatorship under President Tinubu. And now joining us for more on this, two important guests. My first is Peter Ameh. He's the secretary of the Coalition of Political Parties, as well as Sunny Atamuno, who is a public affairs analyst based in Rivers State. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Ameh, let me just start with you. The president has been accused of attempting to intimidate governors and opposition leaders to get their support for his re-election bid in 2027. Do you also see it this way?
For me, that's the only thing, the only interest the president has in this way. He has been a part of the problem. He has been part of the issue from the beginning. He's an interested party in this whole issue. Because if you look at his press statement that he read during the day, it suspended the democratically elected governor, executive governor of Rivers State and the legislature. It was clearly to show the intent and purpose for which his interests were to pursue the agenda for 2027. And this agenda, even if you look at Section 305, is antithetical to the deepening and growth of democratic practice in our country. And if anybody says that this is to kill democracy, I think I align myself with the person. Because you can't have a situation. Democracy is something that comes with freedom, that comes with the level of people making their own decision and choice. And if you have a situation where it becomes a quasi-military arrangement where people now use their military style decree process to remove somebody who has been elected for a particular period of time, then you know that people will now start to develop fear. People will start to lose trust in their democratic progress. People's participation will be low, which will lead to voter apathy. Because what is the essence of voting for somebody and then another elected person has a superior authority to overturn that decision without consulting the electorate, without following the due process he has established a shrine in the Constitution, whether impeachment, death, or resignation. So it is clear from day one that when you look at the map for winning election in Nigeria, you look at Rivers State, you look at Lagos, you look at Kano, you can see the level of interest that has been poured to this state. Is to show that at all costs, this state must be on our side, and for those reasons, those who are holding sway, who are not playing to our game, must be punished. And that undermines the principle and the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, that allows us to have a multi-party democratic system where people must, participate in a political party that protect their rights and give them the free wisdom and free choice, to participate in politics.
I have to ask, are you worried that the declaration of a state of emergency and the suspension may not, in fact, solve the crisis in Rivers State?
No, I'm very worried. As of today, you can look at what is happening with the kind of charade, the kind of orchestrated drama that is being put on us from the national head, or from the head of service to suspension of warning traditional rulers not to participate in politics. You could see that it's a one-sided process. And because it's one-sided, and everybody is going, the chief of staff was on TV explaining how he was giving 5 billion naira. So this is not the way to solve the issue. If the government had wanted, because there are two parties involved, there's PDP at the state and the APC at the central. There's no way you will tell me that the APC have the interest to be able to stabilize this issue. If they had the interest, what they would have done was to bring the National Peace Committee, headed by former head of state, Salami Abubakar, with Bishop Kuka, and other very renowned leaders, which I was a member at the time, to bring them into the fold of discussion and bring the parties to a table where they will have dialogue. And if dialogue does not solve the issue, they'll wait for the election of 2027. Because there's an established process to either recall, to either show your strength in a democratic process, and that is through the voice of the people, where they go through the ballot and then elect the leaders of their choice. This will further deepen the division within the state, because people are hungry, people are not happy. Yes, they do not have the authority to be able to also deploy soldiers.
Right.
Because if you talk of state of emergency, it is not supposed to do with suspension of democratic institutions, but to be able to strengthen the institution of security to forestall whatever crisis that will come up in the states.
I'm glad you're talking about, you know, the pillars of democracy, and especially in the state, because it takes me to my next question. I'm coming to you, Mr. Atamuno, for this. The PDP has accused the sole administrator, the Vice Admiral Ibas, of dismantling democratic structures that was put in place by Siminalayi Fubara, following the political appointees' suspensions as well. And also another, I think CSO also called that the Admiral also declares his assets because that he runs a risk of enriching himself. What would you consider to be the best way to manage all stakeholders to address this crisis once and for all, given the suspension of politically appointed members of the government?
First of all, I believe the suspension is illegal, and you cannot put nothing on something and expect it to stand. And then people were asking him to declare his asset. Yes, he has put himself in the arena of the discussion.
Mr. Ameh, just hang on a second. That question was for Mr. Sunny Atamuno. Forgive me. I was asking about the suspension. We understand that the Vice Admiral also paused all political appointees that was appointed by the Siminalayi Fubara. So how best can this be managed when all stakeholders are involved?
Okay, thank you very much. I think, first of all, the sole administrator is working on a script that was written for him, obviously, because you cannot just dismantle these agents. He started by dismantling every political appointee, which is fine. But most of those agencies that are supposed to run River State on a daily basis, most of these, the schools, the higher institutions, their governing councils, he had to bring all of them down. And the funny thing is, he's not even doing anything to broker peace among the warring factions. It seems his mission is not even to broker peace, which they made us feel he was coming to do. So he's not even doing any of that. Rather, he's just suspending, bringing down systems that the governor has already put in place. So you can see that the man is not really here to broker peace among the warring factions at all, to me, because he has not even worked with relevant stakeholders, the kings. He only called them, told them to maintain peace and order, which in fact, when he came, the first comment he made was that no protest, nothing at all. So he's not even working with the traditional institution. I was feeling he was going to work with them to call on the assembly members, call on the governor, call on every other party, and see how they can amicably resolve whatever political crisis that is ongoing. But up till now, he has not done any.
All right. We seem to be having issues with Mr. Sunny's audio. We'll try to fix it. We seem to be having network connectivity issues there. But let me come to you, Mr. Ameh. Apart from the appointment of the sole administrator, what other real efforts can be taken that should take place to resolve the crisis?
There's a constitutional arrangement. If you have Section 188, if you look at Section 308, where the governor is immune from criminal and civil proceedings, and if you look at Section 305, where the president used to remove the elected officials in the state, these are clear processes that are there. Even for the National Assembly, when the State Assembly were in crisis, the National Assembly is a provision in Section 11, Section 4 and 5, where the National Assembly can take the duties of the State Assembly and continue to make laws for the state. But that does not affect the authority of the state executive to remain in place. So our position is very clear. If the person is elected for a 4-year term, and if that time comes, you roll out to election. It is because of this undercourt and interested parties playing behind the scene, trying to show as if they are interested in resolving the issue. But clearly, what they are trying to do is to undermine the democratic institution of the state, to establish their own strength, and to look for a way to extend beyond 6 months. So they are not willing to resolve the issue. Because if they were willing to resolve the issue, there was no need for a sole administrator that is not known to our law in the first place. That has even worsened the situation on ground. There's no need, because he is now appointing chief of staff who is a retired military person too. And I do not see the reason why we have to make politics enticing for retired military officers, which is going to further jeopardize and put our democracy in danger. So I think the decision of the president is illegal, is undemocratic, and is antithetical to our democratic principles of developing a society where Nigerian citizens will participate in a democratic exercise and freely elect those who represent them. So if we want to solve this problem in the recess, the sole administrator, first of all, we have to leave that place and come back and allow the institutions that the people have put in place to operate within the ambit of the law. And that we think that the Supreme Court, the governors, some governors have put this matter before them because they could also be affected. And if you put fear in the minds of those who are across the state that are not belonging to APC government, it will further jeopardize our ability to strengthen democracy. So the Supreme Court must quickly attend to the request by governors to look at the authority that the president has quoted, whether they have the right to take such decision, and then make sure that we save this democracy from collapsing. This Fourth Republic is very dear to us, and it's important for us to save it in the best possible way, because the president is acting only in the direction of his own interest and not the interest of the River State people.
I wish there was more time for us to go in depth. I must say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Peter Ameh, as well as Mr. Sunny Atamuno, for joining us and giving us a bit of insight on this situation in River State and all that's going on in the Nigerian democratic scene. Once again, thank you so much.